All right. Hello, Alicia. Thank you so much
Hello.
for joining me today. I am Nathan Harold, a junior here at WVU studying sports and adventure media. I love learning about all the different aspects of sport and how they are conducted. So today, I will be interviewing you to gain knowledge about the cognitive strategies that you use in both participating and leading a sports club. We will talk about the ways in which you prepare, guide, and learn from your experience with an emphasis on concentration, feedback, and preparation. As a reminder, this interview will be recorded, but will not be publicly shared, aside from submission to my professor. Do you have any questions before we begin?
No, sounds good.
All right. Can you please introduce yourself and explain some of your sports experience?
Okay, my name is Alicia Salon. I am a current senior at WVU. I have played sports since elementary school. Mainly, my two main sports include volleyball and tennis. I've continued volleyball and tennis throughout high school and more so tennis in college now, being the current president at the WVU tennis club team.
So,
That's good.
when did you join the club tennis team?
So technically, I joined spring semester of my freshman year. I didn't join fall semester because I actually didn't even know about the tennis club team until one of my family friends had reached out to my dad and told me about it. And so then I checked it out spring semester and then officially joined that term.
Awesome. So we'll focus on tennis here since I know that's the main sport you played. Can you tell me about some of the things you love about tennis and about your sport?
Oh wow. I would say some of the main things that I love about tennis include how it can be both a very individual sport and a very team-oriented sport. Like whenever you have the typical matches of tennis, you have singles and doubles. Singles, you get more of that individual format where it's just you versus the other person and you don't have to worry about like oh bringing your teammates down and it's I believe singles is a huge mental game more than an actual like playing out points and such. And then on the other side of the spectrum you have doubles, and I think doubles is also a bunch of fun because you have only one partner and it's just you two against two other people, and I think you can get pretty competitive and get more of that team dynamic in play with doubles. um I guess you could say this is one thing that I like about tennis. I feel like you are able to implement your own strategies a lot. And this kind of goes into how I've dealt with other team sports where tennis is different. You can have complete control over your gameplay, whereas sometimes with per se volleyball, you have six players on one side of your court and there's like three touches on each play, and so you only contribute so much to one point, whereas tennis, it's solely on you or you and one other person. So I think it's nice to have that kind of accountability and responsibility, but it can also be kind of discouraging or frightening to some people too.
Yeah, because the responsibility changes to more on you or more on the team, but that
Yeah.
also changes how you have to approach the sport.
Hmm.
Um, so is there someone that you look up to that encouraged you to join your sport or maybe still even encourages you now?
Mm. I would say my dad. My dad, he was actually the first person, of course, to get me into tennis. I started playing when I was 5, and he was the one, just getting me out on the courts, hitting some balls with me, and eventually getting me into lessons and such, as well with my sisters. And he also was a big motivator for me to join the tennis club team in college because I was kind of burnt out after high school. I was like, I don't know if I want to play. And I think that was also a reason I didn't join the first semester. But then after I had that semester off, I was like, oh, I actually kind of miss tennis. Let me check out this club. And my dad was definitely one of the ones I was like, you should definitely do it. I heard from this person, yada, yada, yada. He also played throughout high school. He didn't play in college, but because he wanted to focus more on studies. And so, but he definitely motivated me to join and helped me, I guess, get a passion for tennis for sure.
Absolutely. Um, I know you mentioned it slightly already, but how important do you think mentality is in a sport like tennis?
Huge. I think it's so huge. I myself, I've come across different scenarios where I think my mental game may have given me a win and cost me a win in a match. And if you're unable to go into a tennis match without a good mental state or attitude, I think it not only is it hard to win or hard to do well, but it's like hard to even enjoy the sport as well. I don't know. Um, Because there will be times when, you might not be hitting the same exact strokes you've hit every single time, and it's just not going in the way you want it to. And you have to be able to turn that around especially when it's just you playing against someone else. Because sometimes whenever it's doubles, you can bounce off the other person that you're playing with and be like, hey, listen, my backhand isn't doing too well. Do you care to cover that for me? But when it's just you, you have to cover your own backhand. You have to step up and take responsibility, make the changes in the match and all that stuff. So having a good mental attitude definitely helps make the sport enjoyable and to help with like progression with the sport.
Yeah, I know I've never played a sport in a club or professional at all, but like I think I mentioned to you before, I play tennis casually with my friends, and it is just it's a running joke with us that when we show up, like I can just tell by how I feel if I'm gonna have a good or bad day. And
Hmm.
we get there and I'm like, guys, it's not gonna go well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
usually I'm right, but it then they also, they always bring up the fact that if I'm showing up saying I'm not gonna do well, not gonna do
That's
well.
true.
So
Yeah, yeah.
even just on a casual level, I understand where mentality comes into play there.
Yeah.
Um, I know that you are president of the club tennis team here at WVU. What encouraged you to take on that role?
I would say a big part of it was the previous president of the tennis club team. He had kind of pulled me aside into our second term of, or his second term of being president. And he was just like, hey, are you thinking about being the president for like next year whenever I graduate? And I was like, oh, I don't know. Has anybody else like reached out or thought about being president? He was like, well, I know this person might or that person might, but he was like, I think you would do a great job of being the president. And I was like, why do you think that is? And then he went to explain that he thinks I was also practice manager the previous year too. And so he was like, one, you know how to run the practices, you can talk to everybody, like you have confidence in that regards. And he was like, I think you could also bring a lot of fun to the tennis club team. And I think that's one thing I try and strive to do as the president and try and make it more, I guess, accepting or like, what would be the word? Kind of just like easier for people to join and not as like clicky. Because I remember that was one thing that I encountered when I joined. And so that's more of like the social aspects. And whenever it comes to like playing wise, it definitely has been different being the president versus being a member. I feel, but going back to your initial question of what inspired me to be the president, I think it was mainly him. And also, I was like, I think there are some things that I could do differently, and being the president would put me in the perfect spot to do that, such as something small was last year we had indoor practices and we practiced on Fridays and barely anybody came and we would be wasting money on that. And so that's one thing I implemented this year where I tried to make sure that we didn't have practice on Fridays so then our attendance was better and we were making better use of our money. It's small things like that.
So, is your guys' fall season over now? Are you guys?
Technically, no, we're still practicing indoor, but we're only practicing one day a week on Mondays. Actually, we'll be practicing later tonight. And once it hits, because since we play indoor, we can practically play all the way until winter break.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So, with being this far into your season as president, how do you feel about your decision now?
I don't know. I'm still working it out. I feel good in the sense that I think I might have been the best person to do it and to handle things. And I'm very also thankful to like everybody on the board for our team, like our secretary, treasurer, vice president. Like we've all worked very well together. And I think the roles that we're in best complement our personalities and what we're best able to do. So I am confident in the choice that I had to be the president. Now, I will say I have like experienced some differences and changes in my play and like my priorities and my stress levels with being the president. But I think it was also just like getting used to the different changes and what I might have to adapt to. And I feel like once spring semester comes around, it'll be easier. Like I'll know what I need to do and what I should change. And so I think the stress will be a lot easier next semester.
All right, so getting into some more specifics. If you were to think of a competition in which you performed well, um, how, like looking back on it, how would you feel that you mentally prepare for that event? Like, what specifically did you think or say to yourself to get ready to compete?
Okay. Well, the first thing that popped in my head was this most recent, whenever we had the home tournament, I was playing a mixed doubles match against, it was University of Cincinnati. And going into the warm-ups, well, even before the warm-ups, when I was watching our team play against their team in singles and doubles, their matches, I was thinking they're really good. So I'm gonna have to be playing my best. And I was trying, my main thought was, let's just put your best foot forward. This was going to be our last match, too. This was the championship of the gold bracket. So I was like, we made it this far. I say we just try our best and win or lose, we just go home thinking, that was the best effort I could have put out there. And so I walk up, I'm getting ready to warm up. And so I'm warming up with the girl that I'll be playing against, and then my guy teammate's warming up with the guy teammate. And so as I'm just hitting my shots, I'm like, okay, I need to be aggressive because these people, they hit really good shots. It's different from anybody else we played at the tournament. So I'm gonna have to be a little bit more aggressive. So my head space was, let's hit these shots as hard as I can and as consistent as I can. And so that's what I was doing. Like first things first, I wasn't holding back any shots. And of course there were some that went out and then there were a bunch that went in. And so I was like, okay, let's keep this moving. And I was very, very quick to just keep the pace and like keep hitting your shots and don't slow down. Get your warm-ups and get whatever you need. Don't feel nervous about asking for like more volleys or more serves or whatever. And that's one thing I try and maintain for majority of my warm-ups. Just sometimes there'll be different parts that'll play roles in it. Anyways, and so we get into the match, and I just keep telling myself, win or lose that point, next point. Doesn't matter what happened in the previous point. It's just one point after another. And we ended up zooming through that match and beat them 6-0, which was really nice, which was great. But I think my main, I guess, mantra or what I kept in my head is that you just got to keep playing your point and play as aggressively as you can. And what happens, you'll deal with it later.
Yeah. Are there any specific mental strategies that you can think of that you use before a successful competition like this one, like relaxation methods, breathing, anything of that nature?
Mhm. There's one method that I use so much, and I don't use it just even in tennis. I use it in like real life whenever I'm just starting to get like tense. I'll it's this breathing technique where I repeat to myself, breathe in good thoughts. And whenever I'm breathing in, I'm like thinking of like things that make me happier, things that like keep me at peace. And then breathe out bad thoughts. And whenever I breathe out the bad thoughts, I don't even think of anything bad because I'm like, I don't want that in my head. So I just imagine like just like bleh coming out or like just like black smoke, kind of like just darkness coming out. And I'll use that a lot. And I definitely used it in the match because I try and use it in majority of my tennis matches. Another technique that I'll do, as I was mentioning, is kind of like treating every point as its own separate point instead of like in the scoring 15, 15, 15, 30. I'll say the score, but I'll try and be like, this is still like 0-0. This is just one point, You just got to keep pushing through, trying to get rid of that stress of like, oh, this is their match point. We got to make sure that we win this point. Like kind of getting scared of losing, and I try and get rid of that mindset as much as I can.
Yeah, so focus on where you are rather than what's coming up.
Yes, yes.
Do you find your preparation before types of tournaments to stay consistent, or do you feel that it changes based on the situation?
Mm. I try and keep it as consistent as I can. Like the two tips or tactics that I've used, I use those consistently. However, sometimes like for that match, we were technically either tied or it was unknown where we were at. So I didn't really have too much of a stressor of like, oh, well, we need to win this game by so much to beat them. And so sometimes it can change. Like if I know that we're down, like, okay, I need to try my best to keep these games quick and be as aggressive as I can be. And I think that can be a good and a bad thing because it goes back to the whole thing of, being stressed about how I need to perform versus just performing how I should perform. Yeah.
All right, so now on the flip side, if you think back to a competition in which maybe you performed poorly or at least not up to what your standard is, what you wanted to perform,
Mhm.
how do you feel you mentally prepared for that event? Do you think that it was different than when you were successful?
Okay. Let me think. Okay. I think I kind of flipped my warm up. This is like a big thing that I've noticed, at least whenever I compare matches that I've done well and I've done bad in. When I'll warm up, I'll kind of just go through the movement of it. Like my warm up isn't with intention. And so I probably won't be swinging out on my warm-ups. I'll just be trying to feed it back to the person. And then whenever I get into the actual match, I'm too tight to even swing 50% of my best shots. And I think that's like a pretty consistent marker of whenever I don't play as well as I should. I do try and use those same like tactics of like breathing and like, you know, doing some positive self-talk. However, sometimes like it can only do so much and I'll get in my head. I'm like, I should be hitting those shots in. I should be able to like that was an easy shot. Why did that one go into the net? Why did that one go out? And I think that's also pretty consistent with my bad matches where I don't really do as well as I should be.
Now, some of this may relate, but if you were to describe any stress that you experienced during, like before or during a competition, how do you deal with that? If it is, it may be the breathing strategies, but if there's anything else.
Mm. Some stresses that I think that I've sometimes dealt with is like sometimes I'll get nervous with people watching. If there's like a huge crowd or say it's like the last match and everybody's around watching you, like I'll get a little nervous and tense. But what helps me is just I try and tune them out as much as I can and just focus on the ball. That's one big thing I'll do is like just keep my eye on the ball no matter where it's at. Like this could be when they're picking up the ball or when someone's dribbling it before they serve. And I'll just focus on the ball solely and just play the point out and act like they're not even there. Yeah.
And has your stress management ability changed throughout the years? And for better or for worse, do you think?
I definitely think it has changed. I can't tell if it's better or worse. Like, of course, comparing with high school versus now, it's completely different. I think back
Sure,
then I
you feel
probably,
different as president as well. That
yeah, that as well too. Um, I would say if we were to just compare close to years, like last year, I was less, I think, I had less expectations for me. Like I was joining this club just to have fun, just to play the occasional game of tennis. I wasn't there to like, oh, I want to win. I want to play well. I want to do well. I want a good record. Whereas now, since I am the president and I do kind of have like that label on me, I do try and I do have a higher expectation for myself. Like I should be winning these matches. Oh, this person I'm playing, I should definitely beat them. I know I can beat them. And I think that has made me a little bit more stressed and more tight and unable to like play as loosely and as comfortable as say I would last year. And I think handling it wise, I don't know if I probably just gotta need to play more games now, but there's definitely some sort of stress management, like an additional one that I could do to help with this, or maybe even just scrap the whole idea of, you may be a president, but that's separate from your gameplay, and that I should just let go of that expectation of having to play a certain way. Of course, this is all a work in progress. I'm still
Yeah.
muddling through. Yeah.
All right, and then we're gonna shift a little bit to more about how you help lead a team, moving away more from the personal. So as both an athlete and someone in a lead role in your organization, how do you find a balance in providing feedback to your peers while also focusing on your own improvement?
Mm. As I kind of mentioned, this is something that I'm still kind of working with. One thing I will try and focus on is when I am giving advice and giving some guidance to the players, I will a lot of the times use my own personal experience and be like, oh, hey, when I play doubles, I try and be in this spot because I've dealt with yada yada. I'll use my personal experience a lot. Um, but then whenever it comes to my own personal stress, it's like it's hard because I'll try and give myself the same advice, and sometimes it won't work, and sometimes it will. Best case scenario, it'll work. But it has been interesting because I'll also, my own personal advice sometimes I wouldn't give to other people. Like some people I've heard this that I'll give myself a lot of positive talk, or sometimes silence is the best in my head, whereas other people it's like, oh no, I need to be critiquing myself and I need to do this or that. And I think whenever it comes to a mental game with tennis, it is very personalized to each person. And so one of I think my best advice I've given is to let people know like, hey, you're going to find something that works for you, and that's just what you have to strive for. I can tell you what I've done, I can tell you what other people have done, but you yourself have to find what works best for you because is very personal. It is very up to your own mindset. And that's probably the most I've done for at least guiding other people whenever it comes to handling stuff like that.
So I know you mentioned that you're working on it, but when you started this president role, do you feel that helping and working with others was something that came easy to you, or was it important that you improved, you felt like at the start?
I think some aspects of it had came easier than others. Like for example, giving tips on how to hit a ball a certain way or how to volley or how to serve, like all the technical things, I feel I do well with because I've had so much instruction and however many years I've played tennis. Um, I think one thing that has probably been a bit of a hurdle is weirdly enough, explaining specific things whenever it comes to like regards of like games. Weirdly enough, like I've been trying to implement like new games, and I'll, have everybody circle around and be like, oh, so this is the game we're going to be playing. And I try and explain it. And then it's like, I can tell a lot of people aren't understanding it. And I was like, let me do a demonstration. Let me give them a visual kind of representation of what we'll be playing. And so that has been like a little hurdle I feel like that I've needed to go over. Another thing, and I don't think this is super tennis related, but more kind of socially related. Um, I felt like there has been a little bit of a divide with the team in the sense that I feel like I haven't been able to like fully incorporate everybody well. And it's a mindset of mine that like how much can I actually do versus how much is it just actually the team dynamic. And so of course I'm trying my best. Like we've had social events where we'll have little watch parties, or we had our formal this weekend and all this stuff. But you still, you always try and be like, oh, well, maybe I could do this or maybe I could do that to get the team more incorporated. But there's only so much you can do.
So a recurring theme we've had today, especially like you discussing how you approach your games, is confidence. And so, as a leader of a club organization that houses players of all different skill levels, I know you guys have both a casual and competitive team. How important do you think building confidence is in your players?
I think it's very huge. I think confidence ties very like closely with the mental game. Like if you don't have like high enough confidence in yourself, you're not going to have that good mental mindset to go into the game and perform as well as you want to. And I think confidence is huge. I think it's huge for both the casual and competitive team because with the casual team, it's more of introducing people into tennis or people who have played, getting them up to a higher playing level. And if you slowly build that confidence with small, simple drills, you can maybe get them more comfortable to even try and try out for the tournament team the next semester. Like I know I've tried to talk some people into retrying out or possibly trying out for the next term because we will have a couple of graduating members. Um, and then with the competitive team, getting their confidence up, especially if it's after like a tournament where we didn't do well, or someone say they haven't been playing consistently well for however many matches, just getting them into practice, getting them hitting their shots like the way they want to, getting them that confidence back. I think it's huge with mental and also, as I said before, if you have good play, good mental, makes the sport more enjoyable and more people wanting to do it. So yeah.
So I think confidence is one of those things in everyday life that does tie into sports because I think it works in the same way. You're almost guaranteed to do better at something if you're going into it confidently than if you go into it expecting to do bad.
Mm.
Um, are there any changes that you notice in your players who tend to be more confident rather than those who you feel like you need to work on it with?
Mm. I will say the ones that are more confident, they're more, it goes two ways. I've seen players who are more confident that are very, very accepting to like advice. They're very much like, okay, tell me what I need to do. Um, how can I change? What's some tips that you have for me? And then there's also the other end of the spectrum, very confident, but very kind of close-minded to some advice. Like they'll be like, "Oh, I know how I play. I know what I need to do well. I don't need any advice."
I
And so
know
you'll
it's
you'll
an
see that with
aggressive
them.
term, but it's like the difference between confident and cocky. Being
Yes,
able
yes,
to
that is true.
understand how
Yeah.
you get better rather than just think you
Mhm.
are at your best.
No, yeah, that is true. Like you'll see some people, they're the best players on the team and they're still actively trying to get better. And then you'll see some people that, they're pretty good, but they're like, oh, I'm set in my ways. I don't need any more advice. And I think that can sometimes be discouraging to other players who are wanting to learn and everything. Yeah.
All right, last question, because I also just got a notification that the meeting went in 10 minutes. Has taking part in a sport affected you mentally outside of the court, whether it's academics or work? Would you say that it's had a positive, negative, or maybe just a neutral effect on your cognitive focus?
Mm. I think playing a sport has been very positive with my cognitive focus. One thing I think, especially with tennis, has helped with my resilience and like dedication whenever it comes to hard tasks. If I'm dealing with something that, oh, man, I'm kind of struggling with this, or oh, this test is really hard, and say mid-exam, I'll use that breathing tactic that I used in tennis, and it'll help me calm down and just think to myself, one question at a time, or one topic, or one assignment at a time. It's very good with that. And also, I think playing in sports has helped a lot with time management because I know that I have to allot so much time to my sport, and that only leaves me however much time for my academics. And I think it's also helped me juggle a lot of things. I definitely think sports are so good for the cognitive. It's one of my things that I will definitely recommend to anybody I know to do anything sport related.
All right. Well, Alicia, I appreciate you taking the time to do this interview and discussing your experience with me. I enjoyed our talk and I thank you for talking with me today.
Of course, of course. Thank you for everything.